Hey everybody, it's Mr. Shore. Today I want to talk to you about writing personal narratives. What is a personal narrative? Well, it's a true story. It's a true story based on an event from the writer's life. Writer is going to write a personal narrative about a topic that's important to him or her. A writer is going to write a personal narrative about a moment or an event that is memorable and important to the story of that person's life. Personal narrative is a story, so just like any novel you'd read, it's going to have those same elements. It's going to have character description. It's going to have setting description. There's going to be dialogue, conversation between people. There's going to be interesting details. Again, like any story, any novel, it's going to follow plot elements. There's going to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's going to be a conflict and a resolution to that conflict. And when you're planning, you want to think in terms of telling the story. First this happened, then this happened, next this happened. Lastly or finally, this happened. You're going to want to start with a hook. A hook is the introduction. It attracts the attention of a reader, makes the reader want to read more of your story, gets them interested and hooked, and they can't put it down. There's 7 different types of hooks. You have fact, personal story, metaphor, surprise statement, description, question, and quote. You want to start with this to get the reader curious. Very important piece of a personal narrative is what we call blowing up a moment. Personal narratives are about one specific moment in time. They are not about long extended periods of time. When you write a personal narrative, you're not going to write about your entire 8th grade year. A lot of events happen in a specific school year. What you're going to do is you are going to write about one day, one moment, one class. You're going to write about that one basketball game that you went to that was incredible, or that one shot that won the game for your team, that one pep rally you went to, that one game you played in class, that one time you saw a fight or had an argument in the cafeteria. It's about one specific moment in time. It's like writing about something happening in slow motion. This event might have been very quick in your day. It might have taken course over a couple minutes. But when you write about it and you explain the story and you include details, it takes longer to tell the story than it actually happened. It slows down time. Again, a personal narrative blows up a singular moment. It takes one point in time and expands on it and gives it lots of detail. It's not about an entire year or an entire lifetime. Now we're talking about writing autobiography. So this may seem daunting, but you tell personal narratives every day. When you are talking to your friend at the lockers, when you're sitting at the cafeteria eating lunch with your friends, when you go home and you have dinner and someone at your house asks you, how was your day? How was Mr. Shore's class? How was that test you took? You're telling a personal narrative. You're taking one moment and talking about it. It's those stories that you start by saying, well, this one time, they can be about your best day, your worst day, a place you visited, time you learned to do something, a mistake you made, your first day at a new house, in a new school, on a new team, that time you broke your arm, a family party you went to that was pretty special, that first time you met your best friend. It could be about any of these things and more. It's your story. It's an event that happened to you that's important and special to you. So what I want to do is share with you a personal narrative. I got this personal narrative from a show called Oprah's Master Class, and in this episode, it featured Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And from this one clip, The Rock talks about a very important moment in his life when he finally started to think about his future. When I was 16 years old, that was the last time I was arrested. And at that time, we were at an all-time low, I think, with our family. At that time, we were living in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I am already a pretty big boy, 6'4", 200 and maybe 20, 25 pounds. I had a very bad mustache. I had a chip on my shoulder. Fresh into this high school in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Freedom High School. I wanted to use the bathroom, but I didn't want to use the regular boys' bathroom because the boys' bathroom smelled like smoke and all the other fun stuff that boys' bathrooms smell like. So I go into the teacher's lounge, and a teacher comes in. His name is Jody Swick. Tough guy. He says, "Hey, you can't be in here." I kind of pause, look over my shoulder. "Okay, I'll leave when I'm done." I continued washing my hands. I slowly dry my hands, and I walk by him, and I kind of just look at him. I walked by. He looked at me, but didn't say a word. He was fuming. I went home that night. I felt bad. I just felt bad. The very next day, I found him, and I went to see him in his class, and I said, "I just want to apologize for how I acted yesterday, and I'm sorry." I stuck my hand out. He looked at my hand. He looked at me, and looked at my hand again. He shook my hand. I'll never forget that shake. He wouldn't let it go. He said, "I want you to do something for me." I said, "Yes." "I want you to come out and play football for me." I said, "Okay." He said, "All right. Do I have your word?" "Yep, sure. You've got my word." I didn't think much of it. I thought, I'll play some football. I like playing football. That's cool. I went out and I played football for Jody Swick. He was our head football coach and he became a father figure to me and a mentor. I fell in love with the game of football. My grades got better and I started getting recruited from every college across the country. College coaches would come in and say, "There he is, Dwayne Johnson, 6'4", 250, plays both sides of the ball, very aggressive." My thought process started to change. That's when I started thinking about goals and what I wanted to accomplish. So if we notice this story, it is about one specific moment in his life, that moment when he finally realized that he needs to think about his future. It starts with a hook. When I was 16 years old, that was the last time I was arrested. That's a pretty surprising statement. We all know The Rock today and how he's very successful, stars in movies, very likable and funny. You'd be surprised that he struggled as a kid and was a troublemaker. So that's a surprise statement. Now you want to read more about how he turned his life around. What about those other elements of a personal narrative that we talked about earlier? Well, character description. We got a description of Dwayne Johnson. He was 16 years old. He was recently arrested. He was big. Had a bad mustache, and he had a chip on his shoulder. There's some direct physical characterization going on there, and there's indirect characterization. Talking about how he was recently arrested and had a chip on his shoulder, you could infer that he wasn't really a nice person at this time. There's also character description of Coach Swick. There's direct characterization. Dwayne says that he is a tough guy. We have a description of the setting that it takes place in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, more specifically at Freedom High School. And in terms of the social setting, it's during a low point for his family. So we can anticipate that he's going to do something that's not really good, not really nice, because things aren't good for him at that time. There's dialogue. We have the conversation between Dwayne Johnson and Coach Swick, conversation about him not being allowed in there and his reaction to that, and then the apology the following day. And then there's interesting details. There's a lot of sensory details about the bathroom, the smell, and why he didn't want to be in there. He talks about going home and his self-reflection. And then there's the description of what Coach Swick and football meant to his life. Same thing with the plot. You start plot with the exposition. The exposition has character, setting, and background information. Well, the character is Dwayne Johnson. He's 16 years old with a chip on his shoulder. Setting, where did it take place? We talked about this, Freedom High School in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, during a low point in his family's life. And the background information, something we need to know that is kind of crucial to the story, in addition to it being a low point in his family's life, is that The boys' bathroom in that school was very smelly. So then we get to the initiating event, the part that gets the story started, and that's that he uses the bathroom in the faculty lounge, in the teacher's lounge. If he does not go into the teacher's lounge, he doesn't meet Coach Swick that day. If he uses the regular bathroom, he doesn't say something bad to Coach Swick. He doesn't make Coach Swick mad, and he doesn't feel like he has to apologize the following day. So this gets the story started. Then you go to the rising action. Coach Swick sees him, tells him he can't be there, and Dwayne Johnson ignores him. We have a character versus character conflict. He made Coach Swick angry by not listening to him, by ignoring him. So the climax, the turning point, happens when he goes home. Thought about what happened, and he felt bad. So what's the result of that climax? Well, the next day he goes to school and he apologizes to Coach Swick. Coach Swick asks him to play football. He agrees. So what's the resolution of this? What's the resolution of him being a not so nice person, about him making the coach angry, about him agreeing to play football? What happens because of it? Well, his grades improve. He's recruited to play football in college, and he starts thinking about his goals. This is a story, and it tells us about a very specific moment in Dwayne Johnson's life. It didn't tell us about all of the games that he played. It didn't tell us about all the times that he was arrested, all the trouble that he made. It didn't even tell us about him going home and if he talked to his family about what had happened during the day. It's about this moment of meeting Coach Swick in the bathroom and this moment where Coach Swick changed his life. Very small and specific. So that's an example of a personal narrative. If you have any questions, please reach out.